So, I'm one of the instructors for this year's Midwest Bridge Seminar. It's a really big honor, to be up there, although I have to admit it's a little intimidating to think about. I'm going to find myself in a room full of people who are my peers and seniors, and it does make me wonder, what in the world am I going to teach for my block of time that anyone there is going to consider worthwhile. I do enjoy teaching or leading class, depending on what your attitude or philosophy is. Strangely enough, I think I prefer training to teaching. Teaching is great. I do enjoy it. It is great to be there in the front of the room and to witness as people, transform from, being awkward to their movements smoothing out and gaining confidence, and of course, those little revelations people have, class after class, and the progress they're making. It's very rewarding to see that, and thinking about how you may have contributed to that, their development. It's also fun, if you have the right makeup in terms of who's there that day, to be able to go up there and maybe play with different ideas that you are working on, explore and try sort of different approaches, as long as it's nothing your teacher would disapprove of course. Though teaching is fun, though, it does require a different cap. My mindset is very different between teaching and training. And the thing about training, what I like is I like the idea of sort of submitting to the lesson and the experience and kind of just going with it, just trying to absorb as much as I can, experience as much as I can. Is very different. Ever since I became a father, and just due to personal and professional circumstances, I had to cut back on my training. It's very much a balancing act now, because if I come in to teach a certain day or days during the week, it's very possible that that means I have to remove potential training days from my schedule. And, that's always a little bit disappointing. I kind of don't understand people who are so gung-ho about getting to lead class. I understand, there is a certain amount of enjoyment of knowing that you have reached that point, that your instructor or instructors are willing to trust you. But, for me, I very much keep in mind the idea, it's responsibility. I realize some of this has to do with my own background. You're growing up half Japanese, half Korean. And so, for me, like any sort of thing tied to a Asian tradition, I'm always very self-conscious of the idea that none of this is mine. Aikido is not mine. The dojo is not mine. Even the class is not mine. It is my responsibility to lead it. It is my responsibility to try to teach and pass things on to people. And you don't want to be leading people in the wrong direction, or overly indulging your own idiosyncrasies and preferences. However, in any case, I am very much looking forward to this year's Midwest Bridge Seminar. If you haven't signed up, there's still room, so please consider going over to the website and clicking in the right spots and come and join us.